Welcome to Amy Hart's Mums Club. In this podcast, I'll be sharing the highs and lows of being a mum, plus each week I'll be joined by a special guest, and together we'll delve into their experiences of parenthood. And that's not all. This podcast is for you. Me and my gaggle of fabulous guests will be sharing tips and tricks and advice from our own journeys. This week, my guest is a comedian who I have been a fan of for a long, long time. He is an evil genius, my favourite podcast of all time. His tour, Hyperactive, continues all the way to December 2025. He's got his suitcase in the background. He's literally just got back. His company, Joel, is doing amazing things in the food supplement industry, and he is the author of 2 children's books. So without further ado, please welcome, and thanks to Premier Inn for arranging this, the world's busiest comedian, Russell Kane.
Yeah, and thanks to Premier Inn, because if I don't sleep, I don't function. And I like a bed that I can predict. I like a room that I can predict. I'm no longer into novelty. I don't want an 8-mile country lane with a brass key and you have to text someone to come out and be taken to the rectory for my loft room. I want to know where I'm going with a purple bedspread and a silent night mattress. You know what I mean?
I completely agree. When I did Panto, I stayed in Premier Inn the whole time. And everyone was like, oh, you're not going to try some different hotels? I was like, no, I like to know once I've done 3 shows. I know exactly what I've got and I know exactly what to expect. So, yeah, I think we're all creatures of habit, aren't we?
I like to sleep near where I'm due the next day. So, for example, I did breakfast TV this morning, and there's no way I'm ever going to just get up at 4 a.m. You know, people that sleep with their sunglasses on the early car and, yeah, I got up at 4. No, absolutely not. I'll hit story time if I can at 7 p.m. and then I will travel into London and then I will fall asleep. Ideally, I would like to sleep in the studio with a duvet over me, and then Kate Garraway just ripped the duvet off and I was there. If I could do that, I probably bloody would. So it also suits me as a stand-up, because when I get off stage, probably the same with you when you're acting, when you get off stage at 10:30, your adrenaline's so high, it's pointless me trying to sleep in a hotel next to where I am. I'd rather get a bit of the journey out the way to where I'm going. Adrenaline cells, cheeky glass of wine with my Alan Partridge salad in the back of the tour vehicle. Bang, we're all good.
Even I do the Love Island podcast at night time at the moment. So I don't get home till sort of 1:30, and my husband goes mad because I sit in the car and scroll through my phone when I get.
Do you know what? This series, I haven't watched the last couple of series, but I'm watching this series. I don't know if it's because they've gone back. It seems to me they've got mostly normal people in. I don't know if they've consciously done that.
They're all likable people who are just doing unlikable things. It makes it very easy for us.
Go on, who's the one? Are you talking about Ben?
I couldn't possibly say.
But you're talking about the taxi driver, like, shut up. Why are you being so irrelevant?
He's literally like, yeah, you are.
We know what your destination is, mate. Yeah. Bye. Put that on your meter.
But I loved when you do a great Adam Collard impression. And
I can't even remember him now. I mean, I do impressions of all of them, but I like this. Ben, the good thing about the thing I love about Love Island is it's women just before they realise that height and abdominal muscles aren't the best thing for a relationship. They're just realising it as they get their heart stamped on for the 3rd time. But by the time a woman gets to about 30, the whole list has disappeared and become, as long as he's not
you say, as we say, you are on tour at the moment. I'm struggling to juggle everything, doing the podcast things. How do you juggle being a parent and also being a... Any tips like staying present and getting the most out of your time with your daughter?
There is a lot of guilt involved. The thing is, what I'm trying to remember with Mina, my daughter, is I have to keep reminding myself that I'm growing a woman. I'm not growing a giant child. And it's really hard for parents, particularly parents that work long hours, which is almost every parent now, to remember you're not just trying to nourish your own emotions to do away with the guilt of having missed them. You're trying to provide the most stable and loving base for your baby to grow into an adult human. And the solution is often somewhere in between. I've been away. Let them sleep in bed with me till they're 11. Let them never scratch their knee. Let them never lose at sports day. Let everything be positive. Is not a good thing, because what will happen is you'll grow an adult that goes, I'm going to win every day according to mummy. Off to work I go. Have I been promoted? No. Anxiety. So I have to be careful not to come home and spoil my daughter as a way of tackling my own guilt of having been away working. And I bet women have this even worse than men because of the gender stereotypes. But increasingly, men are getting involved with all the rubbish you've been involved with years. We're on steroids and liposuction and facelifts and male eating disorder. We liked it so much, we thought we'd join you in a world of body fascism hell.
I think what I am struggling with at the moment is everyone, when I used to leave Stanley when he was a baby, all my friends say, I can't believe you leave him to go to work. He's so young. How do you deal with this? But it's actually harder now because when he was a baby, all he did really was sleep.
Agree. Could not agree more. How old is he now?
He's two, almost 2.5.
Yeah, but the thing is, so now you think, right, this is 2 to 5 years old. How can it get any more difficult? Because they're old enough to want stuff, but not developed enough to communicate properly. But the thing is, let me just prepare you. I can't speak. I've got a girl, right? What surprised me, I started this tour and programmed it when Mina was 7. Okay. I programmed it in 23 and I went on the road in January 25. I'm surprised how much more she needs me as a 9-year-old. I think something happens probably a bit later with boys, but when a child is going from 9 to 11, changing from the sort of baby child bit into a teen, the support, guidance and leadership they need. So this is a lie. Oh, it gets easier next year. That's what we keep telling ourselves as parents. Next year gets easier until eventually you've got a 30-year-old living in your loft.
And and in my case, I moved out and then my best friend ended up moving in, my mum and dad, for 14 months.
There you go.
Their room. It's that when he was a baby, obviously, he'd be asleep or just sat on the sofa.
That's right.
Whereas now, he's so funny and he gets home and he's doing all funny stuff and he wants to be out in the garden and he's doing that. And then I have to go and he knows that I'm going. So it is harder.
Yeah, it's horrible. And the thing is, even when Mina was 2 or 3, my advice to you, you don't need advice, you're doing a podcast about parenting, but to anyone with children under 5 that travel, it's a bit of hassle. But take them with you. A lot of hotels have interconnecting rooms. So if you're a parent that can't have broken sleep, like me, I cannot have broken sleep. I cannot deliver a stand-up show and have broken sleep. It's one of the two, right? So I pay my bills by everyone saying, where does he get his energy from, right? That's what I'm known for. So I have to have unbroken sleep. So what Lindsay and I do, we still travel as a family. We get interconnecting rooms. And we're all together all through story time. But if Lindsay can go side by side in the 2 single beds in the next room, I'm there. So we're together and we're not apart. That all changes once they get to 5 because of school. So make the most of babies being portable. We went around the world a couple of times with Mina. And then, of course, when you hit 5, you're tied down to term times. But I still try and take my international tour dates. For example, I was invited to play the Cayman Islands and then I took Mina with me. So I've got boundaries in place. I'm very big on being involved. I was from when she was born. I was in charge of sleep routines. It was my job to decide whether she was going to go through the night, if we were going to be on a routine. That was my department because this would be I don't mean to make gender stereotypes, but if I could give women a bit of advice, give men a nerdy stats-based job to do when the baby's born. We can't breastfeed, right? We can't grow a baby. I can't feed it. We already feel like a sort of shit assistant manager who doesn't really have a role. But if you tell me, right, I want you to research all the breast pumps, which has got the best wattage. Men are, I've got it. Here are all the charts. So I was very lucky. Lindsay gave me sleep and routine, which is a big thing for a man to be in charge of. And I was like, right, stats have shown that if a baby this and that, and I was involved, even if I couldn't be physically involved. And I've always been that way. There's no excuse for guys. Yeah, but very often I think there's a circle with mother and baby in it for the first year, and men feel like they're outside that circle and all kinds of things go wrong. That is no one's fault, okay? The man ends up in the spare room feeling useless and all this stuff kicks off. It doesn't need to be that way. There's loads of ways you can get this assistant manager involved. So task your men up, give them jobs, and you'll be fine.
We did shifts, so I would be up here with Stanley 10 till 3, and I could, if I wanted to sleep, I could. I didn't. I used to start watching telly until 3, and then Sam would be asleep downstairs, and then he'd come up and he'd do 3 till 10, and he would sleep the whole time of his, and then if Stanley woke up, he'd sort him out. But I mean, I got 7 hours sleep a night. It was brilliant,
and it brought you closer together as a couple because this is the thing that and this is about mums and babies, right? But the best, this is what baby needs. Baby must be breastfed. Baby must sleep in bed. Yes, baby needs all those things. But I tell you what baby needs more than all of those is two parents that love each other, that are fully functioning. I would rather my baby is fed on the most budget formula, but raised by two parents that love the arse of each other. Which do you think is going to create a healthier teenager? One that was breastfed in a toxic relationship, or one that had formula with two loving parents? We focus on the wrong things. Mum and dad should lead together, and so many things are solved from that unity.
I completely agree. I remember you doing the video where you were like, why would a baby who doesn't know anything be able to tell us what they need? Like, it's in the books type thing.
We were told, like, so the midwife, Lindsay, had to have a C. The baby never turned, so we knew we were having a C-section. Awkward, even when she was in the womb, Mina. And the midwife came out, and Lindsay was being prepared for surgery, and I was reading my book with my charts, and she laughed. So, what are you doing? I went, oh, this is all about sleep routine. She went, put the book away. Baby will guide you. I'm like, I've studied everything I've achieved. I've studied my arse off for. I come from a nothing council estate, so I've had to work twice as hard as everyone else. Why would I not study for the most important thing in my life? Yeah. What a load of dog, pardon my French.
Exactly. Now, Chris will cut that out. What was it like for you when you were a child? So obviously, you say you grew up on a council estate, but your dad in a council house, it had extra bedrooms, you had a pool.
Yeah.
Was your dad working sort of round the clock all the hours?
Yeah, he was gone before I woke up sometimes, because he did insulation, so he put like lagging on the outside of pipes. Horrible job, like down in boiler rooms. He was just a very exhausted, sad, unfulfilled, overworked working class man. It's just so sad. If he'd have just lived a few more years, I could have given him, he's from Essex, right? So the things that he's in, watches and Maldives and cars and all that material stuff, which we know are not the recipe. We know it's not the recipe of happiness, but it was important for him. I'd love to have gone, there we are, there's a kettle you dreamt of, or, here's some keys, go and drive that. And I think, and this is again a male problem, men are very bad at seeing other types of wealth. This is why I think the male suicide rate is so high. We only see material wealth, muscles, big success, whereas wealth can be having a wife that loves you, or a partner that loves you, and a child, or just having your health, having a roof over your head 1 week a year in Mallorca. You don't need anything else. But particularly social media makes us misperceive what true wealth and happiness is. And for men, it's literally fatal. It's a fatal recipe for their mental health.
Has that made you like sort of adapt your parenting with Mina?
In what respect? Like, yeah, definitely. I mean, with obviously the lives that you and I lead, the more successful we are in this world, the harder it is to be normal. So when she was very little, if I saw people coming over to me, I would actually stop them with my hand and go, my child is unaware of my work and she finds it distressing. So I did that for about 4 or 5 years. And then I just had to say, this is what daddy does. We know it's no different to anyone, because it is just graft. At the end of the day, it ain't special. It's not. I've got a VAT return. I've got a tax return. I've literally got material. I just don't store it on a van. Yeah. It's just a job. The only thing we do have to do, because obviously I'm in a privileged position, I'm successful at what I do, is we have to, it sounds awful saying this, I do a lot of, sorry, we can't afford it. No, can't afford it. Sorry, we can't afford to eat dinner out, because I grew up hearing, sorry, we can't afford it, a lot. And it made me hungry to earn. And I want to put that money making gene in her. So while I'm long enough to plead poverty where I don't necessarily have poverty, I know it might seem a bit immoral to the listeners, but I'm trying to teach my daughter.
No, I get that.
Work for what you want.
100%. It's funny. It's only in the last 3 weeks so we were on a cruise, and I had to give my name, and Stanley had never heard my name before, and he said, Amy Hart. Amy Hart. My mummy is Amy Hart. And then my mum and dad have been showing him the podcast on YouTube. And so now he goes, my mummy is Amy Hart on the telly. My mummy is Amy Hart on the telly. And it's only 2.
You see how early it starts?
Yeah.
So your child's getting an elevated status from what you do. And you've got to make sure you go, hang on, you're your own person. You're in the kindest way possible. nothing, right? You've got to make it just the way mummy made it, and the journey you've had I think the journey you've had is completely unique, and you need to teach them, I might spend all your inheritance. I want to die skint 90-year-old with a smile on my face.
Mm-hmm. That's 100% we keep saying to my nan and granddad. My granddad still works. He'll be 80 in November, and he's like got a haulage company, drives an HGV lorries, 79. And when we said to him like 10 years ago, like, Granddad, you need to retire. He's like, no, I've made enough money for me and your nan. I've made enough money for my 3 kids. I've got 6 grandchildren. And we're like, we don't care. Like,
No.
holiday, like, have fun.
Yeah, there's a lot of what I call entitled people walking around, a lot of miserable entitled 40-year-olds waiting for a relative to die. I mean, how have you got into that position? You shouldn't be dependent on anyone else for your own wealth or your own happiness. That's something you have to work on.
A lady I used to work with, who I will say was the most selfish person I've ever had the misfortune to meet in my life. She did say, I really hope my dad doesn't go into a nursing home. And I said, I know, my granny went into one, and it's really quite harrowing. She's like, no, because then I won't have any inheritance. I was like, okay, then. Are you going to care for your dad? Probably not, knowing you.
Can I have some of my inheritance while you're still alive? It's like, we don't value our elders enough in this country. When you go to countries like Japan or even Ireland, get on a flight to Ireland, they have a completely different attitude to their grandparents over there. Older people, that's real history. You can't learn that in GCSE. Like my granddad passed away last month. He was 94. I could hear about like ration books and powdered egg and stuff like that from the mouth of someone that lived it. My nana's still alive in Luton. Nana Pat. She's just held together by sort of racism and bits of Daily Mail and war rubble. I think that's all that keeps her going.
Yeah, my granddad, who's now passed away, when I came home and said, Granddad, we're learning about World War II, he was like, brilliant. I've written this essay about when I was evacuated. You can read this out to
No way.
I'm so excited.
That's what I mean. That's real history.
I love it. Let's talk about your kids' books quickly. What made you want to write kids' books? Were you just bored of all the ones that you get given for every birthday?
To be honest with you, normally if someone like me writes a kid's book, it's about a gangster granny or a wizard or something like that. That's what's expected, fiction. So I always thought one day I would do something like that. But a children's publisher came to me and said, have you got any ideas? Quarto. And I was in this exact room on this exact camera, and I had my Burmese cat Terry on my lap. And they was like, that's an unusual type of cat. What's that? And I said, it's a Burmese. Think of it like your needy, annoying friend. And I started translating it into funny. And they was like, write that book. So I went away and wrote a dog and cat breed guide for children. Biggest surprise of my career. I cannot believe something that specialist went to #1. So I can only assume people are reading it like short stories or something, because it can't all be people choosing their next pet. And it's a translation job, really. I just took the description of, say, the Abyssinian cat or the King Charles Spaniel, and I just translated it into a language I'm fluent in. 7-year-old funny.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like my little boy is obsessed with cats and dogs, but we're not getting a pet anytime soon. So I feel like for him, he would love that. So it is a good idea.
It's a good idea. And I write about budgies and rats and rodents and reptiles. They're all in there because a lot of children, because of allergies or where they live, can't have another type of animal.
So your tour, where else are you going on your tour?
Well, it's been going since January 24. So I've done most of the places in the UK I'm going to do. I said I wasn't going to add any more dates, but I've just added one more, Great Yarmouth. That's in December. Then it's just the international dates. I'm doing a small Canadian tour, just 7 cities. And then it sounds like a humble brag, but I honestly can't remember the other countries. Off the top of my head, Norway, Sweden, Antwerp, where's that? It's in Belgium, isn't it? Amsterdam, and I've never played Paris or Berlin before. Tiny gigs. When you start a new country, you have to go there. You've obviously got no fans. Unlikely they follow your social media or your programs have been on. So as a British comic, you're purely trading on that flag and the history of British comedy and seeing who wanders in out of curiosity. So you could be looking at 50 to 200 in the audience max, but you have to do that. You have to rub the twigs and start. That's how we all started. And sooner or later, you've got to rip the plaster off and go and perform to 20 people in Vancouver, which I'll probably be doing in October. But until you do the 20 people and turn up and do the press and radio when you're there, no one knows about your existence. So it'll be a humbling October and November.
Just before Great Yarmouth in December.
Yeah, well, back, I'll be a legend again when I get to Great Yarmouth.
Look, what I was going to say was, like, is it through social media and stuff that you've built these fan bases? But that's so interesting that someone who's so at the top of their game, like you are, like is willing to put that work in to sort of find
Yeah.
audience.
It depends on the country. So Canada, there's a sort of half following because it's so still connected to the UK. So it'll be half and half. Some people that follow British comedy mixed with, well, if he's here touring, he must be good. Let's go and look. Same in Australia. I'll stick that flag on. I never heard of him, but if he's on the Melbourne Roadshow, it's going to be amazing. Packed rooms. So I've got a decent following in Australia. I don't know if I'll do Australia on this tour. And then other countries, it's a complete punt. You have no idea. The UK is a mixture of TV initially, awards, getting a reputation for delivering a good show through word of mouth. And obviously what I now do, which a lot of the analog comedians just won't give into, is I actually put comedy content online. I'm not talking about funny sketches. I will stand up and perform down the barrel of the camera as though I'm doing a sort of pseudo stand-up style. The reason you don't see many stand-ups doing that is because they want to save their material for the gig, and once you've put it online, it's gone. But I've got verbal diarrhea, so it's not an issue for me.
We'll get people in. So, one second, let me just double check if I missed anything. Do you think you talked enough about premiering?
I think so. We hit the colours, the mattress, everything at the top.
Nice one. Okay, so I can ask my question and then we'll go. My final question, and it's a personal one. I know you're so busy, but are we getting any more Evil Genius?
Well, the current series is still going out at the moment. So we just done Joe Weider the other week, so it's going out all the time. So we're on 24 episodes a year now. It's incredible. So there's all kinds of people. I mean, we do everything. We done Frank Sinatra. We done Boudica, the ancient Essex Queen. So we do all kinds of subjects. But for me, the Gandhi, Einstein, Winston Churchill, those are some of the most memorable. They're the ones I've turned into TV as well. You can also watch it on TV now. It's on Sky. There's, I think, 5 or 6 episodes up on wherever you get your Sky.
That's on Sky. I'm very excited about because those that first two series were like literally like I could listen to them over and over again.
Well, watch this space because we've just piloted I can't say it because it's not out, a spin-off type one where there's going to be assessing the evil and genius of another part of life, and that is going ahead as well. So there's going to be even more evil genius spin-off. There's 24 episodes a year. I hope to make more TV.
People who are still alive and they have to come on and fight their case.
Yeah, well, we never do people that are alive for obvious reasons, but sometimes, like Maradona when he died, I think we waited about a month, and then we did a Maradona episode. So you never know. I just need Imelda Marcos to peg it.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today.
My pleasure.
End of the year, your kids' books are out, and obviously we will have a premiere in. So definitely go and stay there on.
Exactly, yeah. If people want to look at the survey, it's Premier Inn. The reason we're talking about sleep, it's Premier Inn that did the survey. That's what's led to this whole chat. So go to premierin.com and you can see all the survey results there. You wouldn't believe some of the places British people try to sleep and can't. Or do you know what? 40% of people can't sleep on a bus. Who are the 60% psychopaths that actually can?
I wouldn't want it. A bus is very open.
There's no way you wouldn't have your stuff on you for a start.
Also, I don't like to sleep on a train because unless I'm my head on the table with my stuff in my lap,
I can't.
I can sleep on like that.
You're very lucky. I can't.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you.
Everyone for listening. I'll be back next week with another fabulous guest. I'll see you then.